Yes, brothers and sisters, um, trying a new video here today, and something just came to my heart, and that was Acts chapter 2. It's always ministered to me, the coming of the Spirit. And I'm just going to quickly read through some of it from this Bible here. It says, when the time of Pentecost was fulfilled, they were all in one place together. And suddenly there came from the sky a noise like a strong driving wind, and it filled the entire house in which they were. Then there appeared to them tongues as of fire, which parted and came to rest on each one of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit, and began to speak in different tongues as the Spirit enabled them to proclaim. Now there were devout Jews from every nation under heaven staying in Jerusalem. At this sound they gathered in a large crowd, but they were confused, because each one heard them speaking, them meaning the disciples, heard them speaking in his own language. They were astounded, and in amazement they asked, Are not all these people who are speaking Galileans? Then how does each one of us hear them in his own native language? We are Parthians, Medes, and Elamites, inhabitants of Mesopotamia, Judea, and Cappadocia, Pontus, and Asia, Phrygia, I don't know how they say that, and Pamphylia, Egypt, and districts of Libya near Cyrene, as well as travelers from Rome, both Jews and converts to Judaism, Cretans and Arabs. Yet we hear them speaking in our own tongues of mighty acts of God. They were all astounded and bewildered, and said to one another, What does this mean? But others said, scoffing, They have had too much wine. So, why do I bring that up, my friends? Is simply because people don't understand that the Spirit of God is not determined by human language. So if somebody is speaking Arabic, as you can see here, well, it's not zooming there, but the word Arab is the Arabs, right? So today we live in a world where we think that people have to have blue eyes and speak English, or be one complexion or another. I don't care about the complexion or the language. The bottom line is that when Acts chapter 2 happened, it was a sign to human beings that the Spirit of God is the master of all language, and that you need the Spirit of God to be within you. You see? And that's what, until today, people are not led by the Spirit of God, because they try to go the other way and think that they know God because they've studied a language. Or somehow, because I use an Arabic, I speak Arabic now, I'm speaking of a different God. Or because I'm now from Libya, Libya is here, Egypt is here. Now I'm speaking, obviously in Libya and Egypt, they're also speaking Arabic over there, But today, in today's Christianity, we fail to realize these things. So what we really need to do is to be led of the Spirit of God, because the Spirit of God is the end all and be all of everything. You see? And you can't do anything without the Spirit of God. You can't make this an academic process of trying to figure things out, using human language, or the study of words, and making this some kind of academic mechanistic process. It doesn't work like that. If you're pursuing some academic process, that academic process has to be submitted once again to the Spirit of God. It doesn't say in the Bible that you need to speak English. The Bible was not even written in English. The Bible wasn't even there in the time of the disciples. You see? They had the Old Testament. I mean, even if you continue reading here, Peter spoke here and quoted Joel. It will come to pass in the days, God says, I will pour out my spirit, quoting Joel. And then here, in the same thing, he's saying, the Lord said unto me, quoting Psalms. You see, but people fail to realize that you have to, it goes beyond this kind of Sanhedrin study or just to become a scribe. You see, and that means that now we have somehow attained a godliness. It's what you call carnal. It's carnal. You see, it's got to do with carnality, carnal wisdom, the wisdom of the world. You see, and if you go into Corinthians, it says, I mean, we can go since the Bible is open. I'm not too much of a Bible guy. Not that I don't like I love the Bible. It's just that people idolize the thing. So if we go to, I think it's Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 2 maybe. This is a new Bible anyway. Yeah, here. See. It says, I will destroy the wisdom. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 19. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the learning of the learned I will set aside. Where is the wise one? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made the wisdom of the world foolish? For since in the wisdom of God, the world did not come to know God through wisdom. Now, what wisdom is he talking about there? It says the world did not come to know God through. He's talking about worldly wisdom. It was the will of God through the foolishness of the proclamation to save those who have faith. For Jews demand a sign. Jews demand signs, and Greeks look for wisdom. But we proclaim Christ crucified, a stumbling block to the Jews, foolishness to the Gentiles. But to those who are called, Jews and Greeks alike, Christ is the power of God and wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than human strength. Consider your own calling, brothers. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many were powerful. Not many were of noble birth. Rather, God chose the foolish of the world to shame the wise, and God chose the weak of the world to shame the strong. And God chose the lowly and despised of the world, those who count for nothing, to reduce to nothing those who are something, so that no human being might boast before God. It is due to him that you are in Christ Jesus, who became for us wisdom from God, as well as righteousness, sanctification, and redemption, so that as it is written, whoever boasts should boast in the Lord. See, then in chapter 2 it goes on to say, when I came to you, brothers, proclaiming the mystery of God, I did not come with sublimity of words or wisdom, for I resolved to know nothing while I was with you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. I came to you in weakness and fear and much trembling, and my message and my proclamation were not with persuasive words of wisdom, but with demonstration of spirit and power, so that your faith might not rest on human wisdom, but on the power of God. Yet we do speak a wisdom to those who are mature. Listen carefully, brothers and sisters. Yet we do speak a wisdom to those who are mature, but not a wisdom of this age, that means this world, nor of the rulers of this age who are passing away. Rather, we speak God's wisdom, mysterious, hidden, which God predetermined before the ages for our glory, and which none of the rulers of this age knew. For if they had known it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. But as it is written, what eyes has not seen, and and ear has not heard, and what has not entered the human heart, what God has prepared for those who love him. This God had revealed to us through the Spirit. For the Spirit scrutinizes everything, even the depths of God. Among human beings, who knows what pertains to humans except the spirit of the person that is within? Similarly, no one knows what pertains to God except the Spirit of God. We have not received the spirit of this world, but the Spirit that is from God, so that we may understand the things freely given to us by God. And we speak about them not with words taught by human wisdom, but with words taught by the Spirit, describing spiritual realities in spiritual terms. Now the natural person does not accept what pertains to the Spirit of God, for to him it is foolishness, and he cannot understand it because it is judged spiritually. The spiritual person, however, can judge everything, but is not subject to judgment by anyone. For who has known the mind of the Lord as to counsel him? But we have the mind of Christ. You see, friends, it's very difficult nowadays, because what we have done is we've put academic processes, worldly academic processes of studying human languages and memorization processes and becoming scribes and all kinds of academic heroes, right? And then we sit down and we study what so-and-so is telling me about this interpretation and that interpretation. But in the end, my friends, as you can see from reading this, God chose the foolish things. So even if you do have the wisdom of this world, it needs to be foolishness. That's not how you know God. You know God, as it says here, we know God when he reveals himself to us by the Spirit. For the Spirit scrutinizes. It says, so many places it's written, human wisdom does not know God. Human wisdom does not know God. You see? Human wisdom is what is taught a lot of the times in most churches. You see? They put God in a box. They put God in some kind of teaching like that. And they try and tell you that God is just a quotation. God is not a quotation. God is a revelation. You see, God it reveals himself to you. God becomes a reality to you. God becomes your daily life. It teaches you about things, speaks to you in your heart, convicts you when you're doing wrong. I've been convicted so many times. I've been punished. I've gone through things, and I don't wish that on anybody, but human flesh is very powerful sometimes, and we need to get back in line, But if we didn't have a father that cared, then we wouldn't have to go through that, We would end up in hell anyway, or in some other, having a great life in this world maybe, you see? So just remember, seeking God is a spiritual process. And if you become mature in the Lord, then the wisdom of God becomes a mystery. You see, God reveals himself to us in a mystery. And it is the duty of God's people to seek out his mystery through prayer, through getting to know the Lord, right? It says, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. How many of you people are in the secret place of the Most High? You see? Where he can reveal himself to you. How many of you go to spend time with the Lord? How many of us talk to the Lord from the depth of who we are, where all the stuff is? Good, bad, ugly, it's all within us. We can't put on a false pretense, my friends. You see? We can't put on a show. We can do that for everybody else. But in the end, we are not just a bunch of tape recordings or digitized voices where when somebody says something, we just hit a play button and then all of a sudden a quotation comes out. That's not what it is. You see? What it is when you've been given revelation, when then you become more and more obedient to the things God has told you. In some of these pages in the Bible, God is telling you today in your various activities everywhere, and God will tell you about the future. You see, it becomes real. It's past, present, and future. See? So let me cut it short here because it's going too long. Most people don't have the attention anymore, so we'll try and keep it short.